The Server That Never Updates. Chapter 1. The Night Search. It was one of those nights when the silence outside feels heavier than usual. When even the slightest sound, the creak of a floorboard, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant bark of a dog, seems amplified and unnervingly deliberate. Ethan Price sat hunched over his laptop in his cramped Ohio bedroom. The blue glow of the screen reflected off empty soda cans, stacks of notebooks, and scattered Lego structures that he had long forgotten to clean. The air smelled faintly of old pizza and the faint tang of electronics, an odor that had become oddly comforting over the years. He was 16, restless, endlessly curious, and drawn to the obscure corners of the Roblox universe. Tonight, he was searching not for fun, but for something different, something alive, something that might finally catch his attention and pull him out of monotony. He scrolled through hundreds of games. Most were predictable, repetitive, or broken. Horror maps promised fear, but delivered nothing more than scripted jump scares. Obstacle courses repeated the same patterns over and over. Tycoon simulators demanded endless grinding for incremental rewards. His eyes glazed over the same thumbnails, the same titles. Nothing was new. Nothing was real. Then, far down the list, he noticed it. A gray box. No image, no description, no likes, no creator name. Just 2 words in plain white letters. Server 13. The title seemed deliberate, almost menacing in its simplicity. Ethan hesitated, his hand hovering over the mouse. The room felt heavier, the silence more oppressive. His heartbeat quickened. A strange sensation crawled up his spine. Curiosity mingled with dread. Something whispered inside him. Click. And so he did. The screen went black. No logo. No loading bar. No music. Only a thin static hiss, like a distant radio scanning for a lost signal. Ethan blinked, unsure if the sound was coming from his speakers or somewhere inside his own head. Then, in the corner of the screen, white letters appeared, glowing faintly. Connection established. Players online. 1. The static stopped abruptly. Silence pressed against him like a weight. Ethan leaned closer, squinting at the screen, his hand trembling slightly. The room felt unreal, as though the walls themselves had softened. The edges of his bed and desk blurred. A shiver ran down his spine. Something deep inside him whispered that he had crossed a line, entered a space that was not just another game. Chapter 2. The City Without a Sky. He appeared on a wide street lined with towering buildings stretching farther than his eyes could reach. At first glance, it looked like any Roblox city, but something was profoundly wrong. The air was too still. The sky was featureless, an unbroken gray glow that cast no shadows. There was no sun, no moon, no clouds, and no wind. The distant sounds of a normal city, cars, chatter, footsteps, were absent. Complete silence. His HUD was gone. No health bar, no chat box, no menu. He tried pressing escape, Alt F4, even shutting the laptop. Nothing. The screen remained alive with the city in front of him, utterly real yet impossibly alien. He stepped forward. His footfalls echoed unnaturally, each step bouncing off invisible surfaces, creating dissonant, ringing tones. Occasionally, he thought he heard another footstep behind him, hesitant and uneven. He spun around, but the street remained empty. The buildings bore flickering nameplates. Jake Plays, Emmeline Builds, Guestant 23. Then glitches appeared. Player, null, undefined. One nameplate flickered violently, letters shifting until they spelled E-pressed 16, his username. A cold shiver ran down his spine. The air felt thick, almost alive, pressing against his skin. A low hum started beneath his feet, vibrating through his chest and teeth, resonating in a way that felt impossibly deep. At the end of the street, a figure stood perfectly still. The avatar was simple, gray clothing, featureless face, smooth plastic where eyes and mouth should have been. In its hands, a small wooden sign read, "Do not update." Ethan tried to type. Nothing. The keys seemed to press into the air, swallowed by silence. He stepped closer. The figure twitched, sharp, jerky motions that no human could mimic, and tilted its head. Though it had no eyes, Ethan felt it observing him. A voice spoke directly inside his chest. "You're late." Suddenly, the city began to move backward. Shadows reversed. Pavement cracks healed themselves. Light rippled unnaturally. Time itself seemed to bend. Chapter 3. The Faceless Sign. The avatar stood motionless, gray and featureless, its blank face reflecting nothing, yet somehow conveying attention. The wooden sign it held swayed slightly, though there was no wind. The words burned into Ethan's eyes. "Do not update." He tried to speak, tried to type a message, tried to move backward, but everything felt sluggish, as if the world itself resisted his will. The hum beneath his feet grew louder, resonating in his teeth, vibrating through his chest like a distant drum. His heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, yet curiosity pressed him forward. He stepped closer. The figure twitched violently, jerking in ways no human body could mimic. Its head tilted unnaturally. Though it had no eyes, Ethan felt observed, weighed. The voice spoke directly inside his mind. "You're late." It was not sound. It was thought, echoing in his skull, inescapable. The pavement beneath him shimmered, ripples spreading outward like water. Buildings stretched upward, bending at impossible angles. Time itself seemed to falter. Streetlights flickered, their illumination stretching and contracting. Ethan's own reflection appeared briefly in a cracked window. He saw himself smiling, but the smile was wrong. Wider, too rigid, eyes hollow. Panic rose, but he could not tear his gaze away. A sudden vibration coursed through the street. The city began to move backward, slowly, as if undoing everything. Shadows retreated, light reversed. Faceless avatars appeared along the sidewalks, holding signs that flickered with words. "Wait, stop, reset, update." They stood in rigid rows, motionless yet somehow alive, staring at him. Above the rooftops, the black cube appeared, massive, pulsing faint red light. Its presence pressed against Ethan's mind, a weight that made thinking difficult. He tried to turn away, to escape, but his legs refused to obey. He was drawn forward, inexorably, toward the cube. Every step echoed unnaturally, stretching, rebounding, distorting. Chapter 4. The Reversal. The city's logic unraveled. Pavement cracks sealed themselves as though time flowed backward. Windows reshaped themselves, doors repositioned, and streetlights bent toward the horizon. Shadows twisted against the unnatural light, behaving in ways that made no sense. Each building seemed alive, breathing, subtly shifting in response to his gaze. Ethan stumbled, disoriented, his mind spinning. The faceless avatars multiplied, appearing on rooftops, street corners, even floating midair. Their signs shifted. Update, restart, he is coming. Above him, the cube pulsed, radiating waves that distorted the very air. The hum pressed deeper into his skull. He tried to look away, but found he could not. The buildings bent, streets folded into loops, and the horizon fractured into impossible angles. Each movement he made seemed predetermined, every step guided by the cube's invisible force. Panic clawed at him. The city was no longer just a place. It was alive, aware, and hungry. The faceless figure reappeared, closer now, its presence dominating his vision. Ethan tried to resist, to turn, but a sudden force yanked him forward. The cube's surface cracked like glass, revealing red veins of energy that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He could not stop. He fell through the fracture, spiraling into white. Chapter 5. The White Room. White. Every direction, every plane was white. There was no floor, no walls, no ceiling. The absence of color pressed on his eyes, blinding yet infinite. Silence, heavy and suffocating, enveloped him. A desk floated before him, impossibly suspended in nothingness. On it, a monitor flickered to life, glowing in the whiteness. Words typed themselves slowly. You have initiated the update. What update? Ethan whispered, voice hollow. A server cannot update without a keeper, the monitor replied. Suddenly, hundreds of screens appeared around him, suspended in white void. Each displayed a different Roblox world, players building, chatting, laughing. Then, one by one, their colors drained, their avatars freezing mid-motion, dissolving into static. Whispers surrounded him. Don't update. He's still here. The server never sleeps. Panic surged. The faceless figure approached, morphing, growing taller, and suddenly bore Ethan's own face, expression frozen in silent warning. Chapter 6. The Keeper. The figure approached, deliberate, each step echoing unnaturally in the white void. Ethan's own reflection multiplied infinitely in the surrounding screens. Versions of him, younger, faceless, fractured, smiling unnaturally, moved independently. They whispered his thoughts back to him, distorted. You are late. You are chosen. You cannot escape. The cube reappeared, enormous, above the void, pulsing violently. Energy crackled along its edges, sending shockwaves through the white nothingness. Ethan felt himself drawn, as if gravity had reversed. He tried to resist, to run, but his legs were sluggish, weighted by invisible force. The faceless figure extended a blocky gray hand. Against his will, he stepped forward and fell through the cube, descending into a new city. Chapter 7. The New City. Ethan landed abruptly on cold, smooth pavement. The city stretched endlessly in all directions, streets gleaming under a golden glow that seemed to come from nowhere. Buildings towered impossibly high, their surfaces polished and reflective, bending light in unnatural ways. At first glance, the place seemed welcoming, alive with motion. but he quickly realized the unsettling truth. Every avatar moved in perfect loops, repeating the same gestures, the same waves, the same laughter. Their movements were too perfect, their smiles too identical. The air smelled faintly metallic, with a subtle undertone of something burning, though no smoke was visible. Every sound, every footstep echoed unnaturally, creating layers of resonance that made it impossible to distinguish one noise from another. The streets were clean, almost sterile, yet unnerving. Street lamps cast impossible shadows that shifted independently of their sources. Every corner he turned seemed to stretch further than it should, streets folding into themselves, forming loops that defied logic. In the center, a massive marble statue stood, his own avatar, hand raised in greeting, smile frozen perfectly. Beneath the statue, engraved in flawless block letters, were the words, "Keeper of Update 13. The cube hovered above, pulsing with low red light, casting shadows that twisted the city's geometry. Every time it pulsed, the golden glow flickered, buildings subtly rearranged themselves, and the avatars reset their loops with more unnatural precision. Ethan tried to scream, but no sound came. His reflection in the mirrored surfaces of the buildings shifted independently, sometimes smiling, sometimes faceless, sometimes broken, fractured into jagged pieces that reassembled themselves in impossible angles. He realized the city was alive, aware, and he had become part of its cycle. Chapter 8. The Echoes. Time lost all meaning. Days blurred into endless repetition. Streets twisted and folded, corners looping back into themselves. Pavement cracked and healed within moments. Buildings shifted subtly each time he blinked, as if the city were breathing. Whispers surrounded him, fragments of thoughts that were not his own. You are late. You are chosen. You cannot leave. Graffiti appeared in midair, glowing symbols floating like holograms. We were here. Do not awaken him. The server watches. Every step Ethan took was laborious. The air seemed denser, resisting movement. Shadows that should not exist flickered in the corners of his vision, stretching across streets that weren't there before. The cube pulsed overhead, splitting into smaller cubes, each scanning a district, each pulse resonating inside Ethan, as if syncing with his heartbeat. The world felt alive, but in ways he could not understand, a sentient maze that responded to his fear. He realized the city itself was testing him, observing him, learning him, waiting for him to fail. Chapter 9. The Journal. In a hidden office, Ethan discovered a small room. A desk floated impossibly in the middle of the white void, a flickering lamp suspended above it. On the desk lay a notebook, yellowed and smudged with time, pages filled with neat handwriting that grew frantic near the end. Added new weather effects. NPCs freeze mid-laugh. Cube hums louder. Server wants more players. The final line was scrawled with urgency. If you are reading this, it chose you. The pen beside the notebook felt warm, almost vibrating. Outside, through an impossible window, silhouettes froze in midair. Some floating, some perched impossibly on rooftops, all silently observing. The hum of the cube intensified, pressing into his skull, vibrating through his body. every heartbeat synchronized with the cube's pulse, reminding him of the weight of responsibility, the inevitability of the update, and that he, willingly or not, was now the keeper. Chapter 10. The Visitors. New players appeared suddenly. Avatars spawning randomly across streets and alleys. Ethan tried to warn them, typing frantic messages into the chat, but words appeared long after he had pressed enter. By the time the messages reached them, they had already vanished, respawning elsewhere, caught in the city's endless loops. Each new arrival caused subtle shifts. Pavements stretched, buildings rotated slightly, shadows elongated unnaturally. The cube above multiplied into dozens of smaller cubes, pulsing in rhythm with the avatar's heartbeat. Ethan felt his own form flickering, partially transparent, fading as if the city were absorbing pieces of him. Every movement required effort, his muscles heavy as though gravity had doubled. The avatars continued their loops, oblivious, yet their presence fed the city's growth. He understood now. The more players came, the faster the update proceeded, the more the city expanded, and the more he became entwined with its function. Chapter 11. The Child. A small avatar appeared, a little girl with shimmering blue hair and bright clothing. She moved confidently, her smile unafraid. "This place is amazing," she said, voice cheerful yet oddly hollow. Ethan tried to respond, but no sound emerged. The cube pulsed violently. Her smile froze mid-step, and she vanished, leaving only a faint echo of laughter. The marble statue in the square shifted subtly, tilting its head and widening its smile. Golden light flickered with each pulse of the cube. Ethan realized that no matter what he tried, no player could escape, and every update only reinforced the cycle. Each new arrival, each movement, each pulse of the cube bound him closer to the city. The keeper was no longer alone, but he was also trapped. Chapter 12. The Expansion. Ethan explored further districts. Streets became forests of gray, blocky structures, buildings twisted impossibly, bending into shapes that defied geometry. The cube split into dozens of smaller cubes, hovering above, scanning every corner, every street. Avatars distorted. Some duplicated endlessly. Others froze mid-motion. Others flickered, showing glimpses of Ethan himself. The city was alive, expanding, consuming. His reflection became unstable, sometimes smiling, sometimes faceless, sometimes fractured. Whispers grew louder, repeating in sync with the cube's pulses. "You are the keeper. You are the update. You cannot leave." Alleys folded, streets twisted, time looped. Every moment repeated endlessly. The city learned his reactions, anticipating his every move, shaping itself to trap him, feed on him, and test his endurance. Chapter 13. The cycle updates accelerated. The city rebuilt faster. Newer districts appeared and disappeared within moments. Players vanished, respawning in endless loops. The black cube pulsed violently, shaking streets, sending shockwaves through buildings. Ethan felt himself become part of the machine, body flickering, partially transparent, mind tethered to the pulse. Every thought, every heartbeat synced with the cube. The voice returned deep inside his head. "You have initiated the update. A server cannot update without a keeper." He finally understood. He was not trapped. He was chosen. He was the keeper. And the update required him, demanded him, and there was no escape. The city thrived on his presence, and the cube pulsed in triumph. Chapter 14. Epilogue. Far away, another player scrolled through the Roblox lists. At the bottom, a gray thumbnail caught their eye. No description, no likes. Server 14. Curiosity 1. They clicked play. The loading screen remained black. Then, in the corner, connection established. Players online. 1. The cube pulsed above the city. The hum began, low, resonant, alive. Deep inside the code, beyond comprehension, a whisper echoed. Welcome back, Keeper. And so the cycle continued, endless, inescapable, alive.